Everybody doing? This is Dre of Recovery One Drones. I hope everybody is doing well. What's going on in, I guess you call it the Midland parts of Texas? Unfortunately, we've had another drone incident occur in that disaster response. And I felt it needs to be brought up. I got whispers about something happening when I did another video on Saturday. Uh, what didn't want to jump the gun. I was on the road Monday, but I did catch the tail end of Pilot Institute's answers and questions, and I did hear Greg bring it up about the incident of a drone interfering with helicopter rescue operations. I believe there may have actually been a midair collision to the point that the helicopter had to be grounded for safety checks. And this is at the same level of what we encounter here in California with the super scooper, where someone took it upon themselves for whatever rhyme or reason to want to engage uh, in violations, just as in the California wildfire scenario. The situation in Texas is that there has been a TFR put in place since the early hours after the initial event, natural disaster event, had occurred. So that goes to show you, one, that whoever this pilot is uh, did not check for TFRs, and if whatever drone he was flying, which has not been uh, relayed out to the public knowledge, as my knowledge, I should say, of what he was flying, would not have, advised him of the TFR or not. But it's upon you as a pilot, regardless if you're flying a drone or you're flying a manned aircraft, you are responsible for checking airspace prior to your flights. We had several people who had to be escorted by fighter jets flying over the president's golf course over the weekend. I think there were four incidents. Private pilots failed to check the airspace conditions, looking for our NOTAMs, as they're officially called, to find out if the airspace is clear for their flights. So this is not just a drone issue, it is a pilot issue. Regardless of what you're flying, you need to check the airspace that you're flying in. The airspace can change at any time for any reason. And this is why it's upon you as a pilot, which we are classified as pilots, as drone individuals, to check airspace. Now, to go down my other list of things that why this occurred, I have to say, just by the initial information, and I'm going to jump the gun here on a couple of things because I don't like doing that, but I feel this is part of the fuel that adds to the fire of why we are being persecuted because of rogue behavior, not just because we worry about the official uh, political line is Chinese, information being sent back to the Chinese government and all this kind of stuff, and we want to bolster American companies and all that and all of that, which is great on the long term things, but at the rate and speed that some of this legislation is taking, uh, it's gonna be rough on all ends of the spectrum. For the most part, hobbyists are being excluded to have any room to fly unless you're going to fly at an AMA field. And that's a whole other issue. But getting back to this Texas situation, uh, it bothers me. It bothers me as being a part of this community. It bothers me as a commercial operator. It bothers me as a safety officer for a city of 250,000 people. It bothers me as being part of one who has taken the courses and got certification from FEMA on on natural disasters. It is just a problem. And this is what we call rogue or cowboy type mentality that just hurts the industry. And I can go by step, and I know some of these are going to be, as we say, assumptions on my part. I'll say that right up front because one who flies enterprise level drones on a regular basis, I know that there are certain aspects of what I see when I fly compared to what people who may fly smaller drones will see on their controllers or on their phones or wherever the case may be or wherever they're using. And this is the video I did the other day, which is ironic that the fact that in that video I did, just doing a quick mapping job, I brought the fact about a helicopter coming into the airspace I was operating in. And I need to pay close attention to that helicopter, know where it's going, have eyes on that helicopter as my drone was continuing its flight. So this is a classic example that whatever drone this individual was flying, they were not paying attention to the airspace. And we call it spatial awareness. They failed to acknowledge the spatial awareness. And this is part of things that you learn from experience, but more effectively, this is something that you learn just by taking the basic trust test. Good morning, Lance. How you doing? This is what you learn is emphasized when you take the Part 107 test. And this I tell people, I said, just because you took the trust test, just because you may be Part 107, that's just the basics. That is just the entry level. Your real experience of being out there flying, exercising, as I say, practicing what you learn from that information on either of those tests is what's more critical than you just taking the test. Just like driving a car, there's a lot of folks who can pass the written exam but can't pass the driving part. So that's why I equate it to is that these are people who may or may not have taken at least the trust test if they're hobbyists, and if they are Part 107, they can kiss that goodbye right away. Because as a result of this collision, that helicopter had to be grounded for safety inspections. So they didn't want to put it back up and be in a critical situation and have a malfunction. It is very lucky that at the time of the collision, the helicopter did not have any rescued individuals who they were transporting back to a safe zone, which could have compounded the situation. Because now you would have had individuals in a panic mode. This could have exacerbated anything that could occur at that point. So this is what we talk about when we tell people that be safe, operate in a manner. Now, my next area I'm gonna address here is very, I would say, more elaborate. If this is part of one of your desires when being a drone operator, that you want to be available, that you want to be able to contribute to the response, the rescue efforts, the search and rescue efforts, everything else. This is what's most important. You need to go ahead and be a part of a team and not be out there as a rogue individual thinking you're going to get all the praise and glory and accolades that come with, oh, I found people. Okay. The organization I'm talking about is a CERT team, which is Community Emergency Response Team. It is pretty much around every state in this country. Is usually in every county and even some cities have a CERT team that you normally meet once a month, maybe once every 3 to 4 months, but they have regular meetings, and usually in those meetings they are training. They are training for all type of events. It may not be the big natural disaster that is like everybody craves for the big bank robbery deal, so we can go capture the bad guys. No, sometimes it might be about managing crowds at parades or whatever big large events where there are people involved. It may be you're out there looking for a person of interest, for as it could be a person, elderly person, or someone who may be mentally disabled. It may be even looking for a lost animal where people have gathered together and be out there. The biggest thing is that you are coordinating your your tool, which what the drone is just simply a tool to aid in those who are on the ground. Okay. A regular drone that most people can afford to buy is not going to be transporting individuals out of trees, not going to be picking people up with a harness and transporting them somewhere else. You are basically just being an extra set of eyes out there from a different perspective. Now, to go a step further, do you have the right drone to even be involved in these type of operations? When you're looking for individuals on the ground, a regular RGB or this regular camera drone is pretty much useless, especially in area, dense forest foliage, all that kind of stuff. You're not going to see. And that's why it's important, because even in the news reports, it talks about how the helicopters are using thermal imaging to locate people. Because a lot of the people that were found clinging to trees and other stuff and debris were covered over by the trees, the foliage in the area. They're not standing in an open area, waving their arms in the air, talking about help. And even the people who may have been on their rooftops or whatever, most of those people in that area in Texas were their properties were close to trees area. So having a drone, uh, having a drone that has thermal infrared capabilities is essential. Hey, how you doing, Dusty? Hey, welcome, Sea Venture. So I say having a drone with infrared capabilities is essential when you're doing rescue operations, because it is easier to detect a heat signature on a screen than it is you watching with the naked eye, because you'll miss right over somebody very easily if you don't even see them at all with the naked eye with a regular camera drone. Thermal imagery makes that heat signature stand out, either it be for a human being or even for animals that are out there, which now are becoming part of the rescue operation, is finding the many animals that were left behind or even got swept away initially, and some are still on property, some are downstream, wherever the case may be. But like I say, having the right drone to aid in this type of exercise is essential also. So don't go out there with your mini whatever, or in case maybe even it's a Mavic 3 Pro, Mavic 4 Pro, if you have that. If you don't have infrared, you are basically in the way. And even if you have infrared, once again, I have to go back. You need to coordinate with the local emergency response team. Every city or county has a emergency response individual. That may not be their title. It could be someone as a city manager. It could be someone appointed. Police chiefs usually take on that role in smaller organizations. So there is always someone there to coordinate the event. And probably in a couple more days, FEMA itself probably will respond and take over the lead in the Texas disaster. Because, like I say, most cities and counties do not have the resources, either in personnel and especially funding, to take on these operations for an extended period of time. So that's why the federal government comes in, because they have the deeper pockets. They have actual professional individuals who do this for a living to come in and even organize the rescue or the recovery efforts in a more professional manner. It is a structure, and that's why when I did my podcast last month, I showed people all the, some of the certificates I have had. I've taken about half a dozen FEMA courses to understand what the incident command system is, and that's what FEMA is based on. We call the ICS, Incident Command System, and that's where you basically learn that you just don't go out there and be a rogue individual trying to do whatever you're doing, and you possibly are hindering or interfering with the official operations that are going on. So, like I say, sometimes good intentions go wrong. And those good intentions in your own mind hurt the overall uh, part of the operations. So I implore and and instruct those who are listening, if you want to be part of a national disaster response team in your local area, find out where that CERT team is meeting at. You can join up. It don't cost you nothing. They'll put you through these CERT basic classes, make you part of that team. You're recognized. Your name goes in the database, all that kind of good stuff. But the key thing is you will learn about the incident command system. It falls under Homeland Security, and then I say FEMA falls under Homeland Security. So you're all part of that structure, and you understand. So when you arrive on scene, and you'll probably get a little card in your wallet, you can say, "I'm so and so. I'm with the CERT team. Where do you need me at?" And that's the attitude that you have to have. It's not about, oh, I'm a drone pilot and I'm going to go over here. No, you need to be willing to understand and to listen that whoever is the incident commander of the event, you need to know that they may need you somewhere else other than where you think you need to be used. And don't think just because you are a drone pilot that you're automatically only going to be flying that drone. It's about you servicing the operation in general, and that you will be available. You might be passing out water bottles. You might be helping serving meals to other rescue operators out there. You know, but the thing is here is that you are trained. You do have a tool that may be utilized, but you need to have an attitude of just providing a service to those who are in need. And that's what it's basically what it's all about and stuff. I see C Venture said he has a DJI 3T. Yes, the 3T has an infrared camera on it, but the regular Pro does. So, like I said, when you're doing search and rescue operations, the infrared camera is what makes a difference. Okay. Now, where I live at in Southern California, earthquakes is our biggest thing that we prepare for on a regular basis. Where I live at in San Bernardino, uh, flooding is not an option, which we only get probably less than 10 inches of rain per year. And, so flooding is not an issue for us as far as a regular rain, but my city floods very easily because it's not designed to handle large amount of water. So that's how our city is designed. Just like this area in Texas was not built, has not been maintained to handle large amounts of water at the level that they just received in a matter of a few minutes. Like I think there's one lady said she went through 3 different dams going through the system, and she's very fortunate to be alive. Just going through those mechanisms. where she could have been hit in the head through the structures or anything else that could have happened to her, let alone from just drowning, period. So there are a lot of things that are in place, and there's a lot of other things that are not in place. And just like the communication factor there in that valley was very limited, but I guarantee you, probably in the next year or two or so, there's going to be a big bidding process from Verizon, AT&T, and whoever else putting up cell towers on some of those campgrounds that are still in operations. So like sometimes you look at that and say, well, how come we didn't do this? How come they didn't have sirens and stuff? And I tell you, because a lot of cities and counties do not have the funding to devote to such type of infrastructure builds. It may be like the one guy talking about, well, if they can't afford it, the state's going to step in. And I'm sure this is not a brand new ideal. I am pretty much sure that that ideal has been passed around before, but it always comes back to who's going to pay for it. And that's the whole crutch of thing is, where's the money coming from? Everybody thinks every government municipality